of the Super Bowl. Boston Sports Journal. Mike's been on with us a lot. I remember the first Patriot run is when I was going to those games and you went to a couple.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a good memory thinking about sort of watching the Boston scene, on Radio Row and all that. Like, just so many people. It just felt so small. The Bills weren't good, and the Patriots are just there year after year. And, we like Mike, though, and we're not going to have to look at him.
I like Mike a lot.
While we're talking.
He's of our
not that's bad, but
semi-regular guests. He's one of my favorites.
Smurless and Steve Diassi and those guys.
Yeah.
Like, he's just big, muscly football guys.
Jacksonville, Smurless, and Diassi. I don't know if they had their Harleys shipped down there or they rented bikes there, but they had motorcycles. I remember. And this was before I had a motorcycle, and I was just like, does it get any better than that? Like, you're in Florida. It was Jacksonville. It wasn't real warm. It was, like maybe 60? I don't remember being hot at all while we were in Jacksonville.
It's when I learned that people from the rest of Florida call Jacksonville, Georgia.
Right.
Not a compliment.
So
not meant as a compliment.
But anyway, yeah, those guys. I remember those guys on pulling in there, finding a parking spot in the media parking area by the convention center to stuff our rental car, and these guys are parked in a no standing zone with their motorcycles, basically. Like, I just wow, that's a look.
And that's when they're going for 3 out of 4. That's the Eagles. Yeah.
Okay.
It's Rams, then it's the Tampa year, and then it's the they beat Carolina rather, and then the Eagles is the game in Jacksonville.
That's right.
Just like, I guess if I were being analyzed professionally, I think I'd be told that I was jealous, but I would hate to have to sign for that. Like, was it really jealousy? I just decided, like, I'm just not gonna like you, really. Anything Patriots.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, remember how many years went by? They were always good.
Yeah, they weren't
a decade.
I don't know. I definitely didn't like them, but they weren't yet. For me, the annoyance level was nowhere. This is pretty obvious, I think. Just over time, it just got to be unbearably annoying. Whereas then it was just kind of like, oh, this team's really good. I wish they'd stop. But, like, it wasn't – I didn't feel like they owned me or owned anything. And then they eventually just, ruined, like, the next 12 years of my football life.
They go in 2007 undefeated and lose to the Giants. They go back in 2011, I believe it is, and they lose to the Giants. And then it's 2014 when they're back again and they win. And I know I would have felt then like, all right, do you really have to keep playing? Isn't it cool to go out on top? What else is there to prove, really? And what does Brady do? He goes for like another 9 years or something after that. Wasn't done. He did not stop.
Right.
Narrator.
And then
he did not stop playing.
Won another one with another team.
One with Tampa.
Just to rub it in.
Which, that was impressive. But I'm always a little jealous of not being there because of the years that we went. But to have to suffer through New England, hopefully Mike's not listening and just cancels because he shouldn't take it personally.
No, definitely. I would hope he wouldn't. I don't think that he would. I do sort of, though, the same thing in mind, and it probably is jealousy. I know for me, I don't love that scene, but one of the things that is afforded you if you are the team that's in it, like if we're there, if we did, and I don't know that we had ever decided in house. We fell a week or two short of having to worry about it, obviously, with them losing in the divisional round again. But I know our boss had said to me one or two times, like, I'm not sure about Radio Row. Maybe we'll do something else, whatever. But if you're a part of the Radio Row scene and you're one of the teams in the game, they're bringing you Jim Nantz. They just bring – everyone comes because you're the flagship of one of the teams in the game. And I would love to experience that once professionally. As much as I don't like the whole scene, and we've talked about it, I've talked about it numerous times.
You're trying to out-muscle Nashville for guests.
Right. But if you're, we're never going to be New York or New England, but for a week in that setting, we would be. Like we'd matter in a way that it's hard to like fight that uphill battle.
Well,
if you're just on your own.
We'd also, believe me, this is not ego. We'd also be guests on a lot of shows.
Sure.
Because it's such an easy, great story if the Bills go back.
Yeah.
And it's been close for a few years here, but has not happened. If they go, it's really about, the whole history of the franchise is on the table. Like this would be a first. And it's what Allen is as a superstar. I know. There is a professional angle to that like you and I would appreciate and find interesting. I don't know if fans do. Fans want it for what it is. Like, let's go win a championship. And it's painful to think about not only the entire history of the Bills, but these ones recently where is it worse than ever? It's not that long ago, and we had a coaching change right away. We haven't really, maybe fully comprehended losing to Denver in the second round. Is that going to be, do you think how is that going to be sort of categorized versus, it's not Patrick Mahomes,
Yeah.
They had that excuse, the Bills, with Mahomes, winning 3 times and going 2 other times.
He's so undeniably good or great, and there's not. Don't hang your head. There's not a lot of shame in losing to someone who's that level of great.
They don't have that excuse anymore, and it doesn't apply to McDermott, presently because he's out.
Right.
But it does apply to Allen. It applies to a lot. It applies to Bean. It applies to a lot of those people that now it was Denver this time, and that did precipitate a big change, losing to the Broncos.
Right, but it did keep us from dwelling on how the game went and assigning real blame. Unless you just take the firing of the coach as well, it must have been his fault. And whatever. Everyone that has a finger in it, deserves some level of blame for them not coming through.
But it really wasn't.
But no, right. It's not. But we didn't ever get to sit with that. And I don't know. I don't know that I mind. But just circumstantially, the way it worked out, yeah, by the time we were back on the air, after Saturday night, a post-game show that ended at 10 p.m. or whatever, by the time we're back on there on Monday, McDermott's gone. And, there's no this interception that, there was some arguing about an interception or a catch, on the Bills' last offensive play.
But that's so frustrating,
right? And that really is a different thing than unless you think they lost because that ruling they did. They did. But I happen to think the ruling was right. So whatever. Even that for us got somewhat muted because of the circumstances. It's obviously the most substantial thing that could happen, the outcome of the coach being dismissed after 9 years. So that's where your focus is. And then it became, how they handled it, how they sounded, how they talked about it and everything. And then we're on to a coaching search. And it's I don't think anybody has forgotten that Josh Allen gave the ball away in horrible fashion at the end of the first half, or anything else that happened in the game that was negative. I think for as great as he has been, I think I said this afterward, he's a great player and he made some great games, and I think he had a mostly terrible day. He made enough mistakes that even his greatness could not overcome them.
It's a little bit maybe like Jackson the year before.
Yeah.
Against the Bills, where they had more yards and they never punted.
Right.
But there were 3 turnovers to 0, I think.
And you lose.
Right. Yeah, the perspective on it really hasn't it's occurred to me, but it really hasn't been top of mind because, once they fire Sean McDermott and it's a week before they hire his replacement, that's what we're doing. Why did they do that? What do they do about it? That's what we're doing, and that's all still pretty fresh. What is it now? 2.5 weeks ago, I guess, would be the Denver loss. I just think, I wonder how we will file the season with respect to these other seasons in recent years. How good were they? I never got comfortable this year. Right from week 1, I was never comfortable. It was they stole the opener from Baltimore. They hammer the Jets. They kind of struggle against the Dolphins and the Saints. Then they start losing. And it really, except for the Carolina game, I guess, it was pretty much every game was kind of hard. The game in Pittsburgh, I mean, I'm just sort of pulling all this back right now, but the game in Pittsburgh was bad until the third quarter. Like it was just, and then it was easy for them, and they pulled away in that game. But Cleveland was challenging, and they lost to the the Eagles. They barely beat the Bengals. I never got comfortable. I never got to, all right, we know they can do it. And it doesn't help that they hadn't done it in previous years.
Right.
I know that, like, having to go on I never, you know this, I mean, this is honest. I never got to, well, it's better that they don't have to play the Chiefs because the Chiefs didn't make it this way. No, it's not. I mean, they're going to have to win games on the road, all of their games on the road probably, and that probably will not be easy. You know, I think the best they were going to do was if they'd squeezed out the Denver game, they get the Cooks call and kick a field goal, then they've won 2 games like that, then they go to New England and maybe do that again like they did when they went to New England the previous time. That was the best case scenario for me. It never was a team that, too many injuries, too many flaws, receiver, defense, that looked the part, I guess I want to say. But, I mean, 12-5, 4th in the league in offense, 1st in the league in rushing, Josh Allen, 7th even in yards allowed as a team.
It's another year just like any other year they had. You said it often during the year. Once New England beat them and was ahead of them, and they never fell behind.
Look out.
Like, the thing that is different mostly is that New England exists, that New England is that good, and you're not in a position to take advantage, the most advantage you could, of the playoff field being as different as it was. I'll stop myself from saying weaker, but still, I mean, I mostly was get me through the year. Hopefully I'm reasonably healthy. I love them going into Denver.
Yeah, you did.
I thought I really, it took me all week. I don't want to try to get, why would I want credit for being wrong about something anyways? But I wasn't boasting all week. But by Friday, I was like, I think they're going to beat this team, and I think it's going to be pretty comfortable. And I think that game was out there without the turnovers. I think that game was in the window for them. But the turnovers just leveled it up in a way that just made it impossible for them to have that game. So it's another year that is kind of, they never were that real to get the one, which is how it's been most of these years. Like, we're invested in, I need Kansas City to lose to the Chargers, like in week 14 or something, and that doesn't have too bad. We all knew New England's schedule. We almost, I think, knew it by heart by the time we were to week 14 or 15, and how easy their final stretch was going to be. So even if the Bills beat them, which they did in that second meeting, they're still uphill here. And that, I think for now, I mean, we'll see how I talk about it if we're together doing this in 3, 4, 5 years still. But I do feel, and I've said this a few times, I think the single greatest failing of this season was them not taking advantage of the schedule they had and getting the one. Because, like, all the talk about, if not now, when, come on, there's no Mahomes, no Burrow, no Lamar, you got to do it now. If they'd been sitting in the catbird seat with a week off, at home with the one, then I think that's completely justified.
Well, okay, but see, that's one of these things that I want to explore. And I guess this will happen over the course of the offseason until we get into next season. But did they deserve the 1 seed? Like, were they a team that, did they blow that, or were they just not good enough? Is it a schedule fluke? I mean, they finished with the 4th best record in the conference. So you can't even really just point to one game and say, if only for this one play. I think maybe in a couple of other years you could do that. That this one, what would it be? I don't know.
I think losing to Atlanta and Miami is pretty tough to take.
Yeah, me too. And that sort of like, that's not a 1 seed.
Right. What do you mean?
if you're losing to the Dolphins by 17 points.
Right, yeah. No, I don't think it's fluky. I'm just saying they didn't take advantage of it, and those are teams you have no business. What good teams did either of those teams beat the rest of the year? Did they beat anyone?
Right, I know.
So
that's it.
Every time New England's got Atlanta, okay, maybe this will be nope. It's not going to be tough at all. And so that, no, they deserve to be where they were. They didn't get a bad break. It's just that they were flawed enough that they lost those games. Because I don't think anybody else, I don't think Denver, that's one of the reasons I thought the Bills would handle them in that game, is I don't think they were that good. And frankly, I don't think New England is that good, but they had a better record. They didn't lose as many of those games as the Bills did. And that's, that's all the Bills' fault. It's not, there's no excuse to be made for it.
No, if it's not clear, what I'm saying, and I think you're saying, is they never really deserved to be the one. You wanted it. You always want it.
Right.
But I would say 2 years ago, so Kansas City, right, they kind of maybe did deserve it. But the Chiefs kept beating the Raiders by a point. They kept winning by the smallest margins, and this team sucks, I think. But how are they? They're 15-1, really? I mean and the Bills were the one. They were the only team to beat the Chiefs until that last week where they started Carson Wentz and lost by 1 million. So I would say in 24, that was a tougher beat. You're betting, you speak the language. That's kind of a bad beat because you're winning your division in a walk. Not all your opponents are the Jets. They had some good wins. They won in Detroit, right, that year.
Yep.
They beat San Francisco. They had some good wins. And yet you've got these lucky Chiefs who just cannot lose. They lost to you. Wasn't even that close. That's tough. That is one where, man, maybe they lose in the playoffs anyway, but the Chiefs game is here, and that felt unlucky. This year did not feel unlucky. This year was,
I definitely agree with that.
Maybe injuries is a part of luck.
Right. Sure. That I think can be chalked up there. But
the Patriots didn't have to have that schedule and win all their 14 games. They might have been a good enough team to win 10 on a schedule. And then you win the division. But you're still going on the road in the second round. And maybe the third, in the AFC Championship. You're doing the same thing. So what is that? Is that interesting? I don't know. What is the conclusion? The question was, what do we do with this year, I guess? And maybe it's moot because they've fired Sean McDermott. They did that.
Yeah.
So it's it's a new era now.
I do think, we've gone around and around over the years, how they've lost to the Chiefs specifically the last 2 years, right? Ball in your hands, field goal range in 23, midfield in 24. Again, there's weird calls, if not flat out bad calls mixed in there with the one quarterback sneak last year in the championship game. But assigning blame, they gave up 30 points and 9 yards of play, but I've got the ball with this guy, with this quarterback, and I got a touchdown wins the game, and I go to the Super Bowl. I don't think it's unfair to say, give me one more drive, give me one more play, and overcome it. This year, the Denver game might be the most glaring example of that. It's harder, I think, because of the turnovers, to push back on, right away. I remember post-game clear as day, another 33 points or whatever. And I'm like, listen, I'm going to have a hard time listening to that on a day where you turned it over like this. I've got Allen missing guys in the stretch, the final stretch of that game. I mean, the play to Cooks was on target enough and could have been a catch, but wasn't. But the pass to Hartman is bad. The pass to Knox is bad. The turnover at halftime. It's the most smoking gun Josh Allen didn't get it done game in the playoffs that he's had.
Since Houston.
Yeah.
At least, yeah, I think I agree with that.
And that's part of what didn't really get talked about by us because of the circumstances surrounding, the fallout from the loss. I mean, the coach is fired and it's over. So we're not assigning blame and talking about Allen's performance the way we would have if we had, 3-4 days between that and the coach firing, or the coach never gets fired at all.
Right. But that probably negates any future reference to how great he's been in the playoffs. Like you had that this year. You was it even 2 years ago when maybe some of the media missed the point on what Allen's performances really were in the playoffs.
Yes.
Then you have, certain people in the local market who will just tell you all the time, actually, he was really great. And they're not wrong. They try really hard. They're not wrong. Now you can't really do that. I mean, 5 turnovers in one game. You can't. Four are on him.
Yeah.
Right. There's a Cook fumble. And that was a pretty tough hit. Like, that was, but whatever. It's not Allen, though. You can't do that now. Nobody's going to want to hear that again. Sorry, I know the world is quarterbacks and the playoffs and championships, and really we don't care anything else. Like Eli Manning, right? Who cares if he's actually good? He beat New England
twice
in the Super Bowl. So maybe the Hall of Fame. I mean, to me that's ridiculous, but I think he'll probably make it. Didn't make it this year, but you know the point. Like you can't whip out Josh Allen's playoff stats anymore after this game.
Yeah,
and more in recent carries more weight anyway. And that's their more. I mean, maybe in a broken foot. I'm sure we'll hear a lot about that. That's probably fair. But you just can't make the same points after that game that you could have in the past. Well, okay. What else is going on?
That's settled.
I had a dream you were in it.
What?
Yeah, it was right here, and you were talking about maybe it was like a Week 18 Bills game was coming up, and you were talking about you'd really like to see Tyrod Taylor, one more time for them. And I didn't know that he was back on the Bills.
Oh.
And I was like all upset that I just, wait a minute. I know I'm not as attentive as I used to be.
How did I miss
and as good at
this?
Comprehension. How did I miss that he's back on the Bills? But that was a dream.
Yeah. They need a backup quarterback.
Well, okay. Do they?
Well, Trubisky's, I think, up.
He's up.
So, I mean, he played well enough. I think a lot of people would sign up for, fine, just keep going. But
maybe
I don't know.
Maybe he would.
Maybe he would too. Maybe he wants to, try his chances out there somewhere in quarterback needy land. Because there will be teams, if Mac Jones and Malik Willis are going to get looks. I mean, might as well, maybe. I mean, there's more scar tissue with Trubisky. Obviously, he's had more tries at it. But I don't know if they might need a guy. I don't know. I'd listen to Tyrod Taylor.
Well, that'll be interesting to talk about, too, what kind of interest there might be in Trubisky, or they just want to run it back again with him as the backup. 803-0550. How good were these Bills? We will definitely talk some Sabres. Another thriller last night, unfortunately for them. It ends up in an overtime loss. What a game. Mike Giardi from the Super Bowl, Boston Sports Journal, and Paul Hamilton. I almost said Lindsey Vonn because she's on one of my she's on my list here today, but she's not coming on unless she wants to.
That would be a hell of a get.
That would right now.
Yeah,
that's all time. That would be amazing. Like when we had the Bachelorette on.
That's exactly what I thought of.
I don't even mean that because they're women either. Just we got the Bachelorette on the day after the finale. She was in a parade calling us. We have a connection.
That was a good get.
It was hard to hear her. But and I'm forgetting her name.